Welcome back, you guys, of the Well Balanced series. And today I'm talking to Elizabeth, who's on Instagram as the pregnancy nutritionist. And we're going to talk about all things fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, and everything in between. I think this is a topic that is very popular right now, but it's also very important. And so I'm super excited to have her perspective and her knowledge to share with you guys. So I'm going to get her in on this call and we will get started. Give me one sec.
Hi,
Hey Elizabeth, what's up?
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing well.
Hold on, I always gotta reposition
I know. Okay.
here so I'm not okay, there we go. That's better. Um, how was your holiday?
It was good. It was good. It was very chill, which I obviously don't mind at all. I'm still very full.
I know, right? You could just eat leftovers for days. We
Yeah.
didn't actually have any leftovers this year because we went traveling the next day. So I was like, do
Yeah, you
not
were
give
pretty
me any food. Yeah, I know. I was like, it's not my favorite to travel during the holidays, if I'm being honest.
yeah, I can see. I fear flying. I love traveling, but I'm a little bit scared of flying. So,
Oh, I love flying. I love flying. It's so fun. It's exhausting though. Like
oh, for sure.
my dad was a pilot, and I was like, how did you do this for 35 years?
Oh my gosh, what a cool job.
I know it was really cool, but it was definitely I flew very young, so it kind of
Okay.
just got
So
me
you just-
into it at that point. But yeah, it's a whole thing when you have to do standby and you're like waiting for the plane and all of that. So
It was much easier, I would say, now that we have two kids. Even if you go away for a day, it is insane how much stuff you bring.
yes, and I traveling with kids is a whole other thing. So
Yeah.
eventually, I haven't gotten there yet, but well, I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah.
And I essentially, these are just, again, casual conversations about topic of interest and, of course, your expertise.
Yeah.
But we'll talk a lot about fertility and just, optimizing that fertility. And I'm sure that you have an audience that struggles with infertility. And I would love to hear kind of how you navigate that with specific clients and all that you have to offer. And then leading into hopefully tips for actual pregnancy and postpartum as well, because it's all very connected. And I feel like a lot of the things that we can do in the very beginning do transfer throughout the entire stage and, well afterwards as well. So, but we'll start off with getting to know you a little bit. So if you want to share kind of your story and what got you into this space in particular, as much as you're wanting to, and would love to get to know you and you a little bit.
Sure. So I have been into health, for so many years, over 10 years. But I really jump started my interest in fertility when I was 25. I got off birth control and I was very naive. I was put on birth control as a teenager because I wasn't getting a period. And looking back, that just makes my blood boil because right then and there is a red flag. I was 18 years old. I wasn't having a cycle. And instead of figuring out why I wasn't having a cycle, I just got thrown the pill. And I was 18. I didn't care. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I don't get a period. This is great. I don't have to worry about it. All of my friends complain about theirs. Another red flag.
Right.
So years go by, and my husband and I are finally ready to start our family. So I was like, all right, Google, when to get off the pill. 6 months before you want to get pregnant. I was like, all right, I'm healthy. I exercise. I eat well. I eat organic. I eat clean. Get off the pill. A year goes by. I'm not pregnant, and I'm still not getting a period. And in that whole year, I just knew in my gut that this is not normal. And anytime I went to my OB, it was, this is really common. Don't worry about it. Try this medication. Okay, well, 3 rounds of Clomid, no period, no baby. Okay, well, let's try this. 3 rounds, 4 rounds, more medication, more blood work with no answers. And everything's coming back normal. And I just said okay. So I went to go see a fertility specialist, and he got me in because my uncle is a surgeon and he was friends with my uncle. So he got me in very quickly. He was very nice. And within minutes of looking at my blood work and my ultrasound, he goes, "Honey, you have PCOS." And I was like, what? I don't, are you serious? And he's like, yes. How was this missed? You've never been told this. And I was so angry at my
Mm-hmm.
OB, because this is something, I mean, that's probably why I wasn't menstruating when I was 18. That is why. So that's, almost 10 years that went by with me neglecting a, a, a problem that could have been totally managed with proper nutrition and certain exercises. And I was someone who exercised to the point of exhaustion. I was an athlete and I was a college athlete. So if I wasn't hunched over feeling like I was ready to vomit, it wasn't enough. Like I had to run more, I had to go faster, I had to lift heavier, which, as you know, with PCOS and cycle syncing, that's really not what you're supposed to be doing. So I was making my symptoms worse. Um, and that just lit my soul on fire. I just went and did so much research. I would spend hours. I went to a local college. I would spend hours in the library researching medical journals because I had access to them for free, as do most people. And I just was disheartened and angry at what I saw. All of these women, even more now than 2 years ago, are infertile and they have all of these problems. And it's happening more and more and more because our diets are getting worse. The environmental toxins are getting worse. Everybody's on birth control for reasons that they don't really have to be on birth control. So I did some treatments with the IVF clinic to conceive our first daughter, Lucia. And I looked at my husband and I said, "This is not, I don't accept this. I won't do this again." And he said, "Okay." And he supported me along my way. And I figured out where I was deficient in certain things. I asked for certain blood work. I asked for certain tests. And even though my doctors said, "Well, everything's normal, so I don't know why you're not getting pregnant," I took it into my own hands. And I really started researching. Just because things are in normal range doesn't mean it's
Right.
normal to conceive. Just because things are in normal range doesn't mean you don't have PCOS. There's several different kinds of PCOS. There's different symptoms of PCOS. So I really just took everything into my own hands. And then I realized all of my friends are having these same issues. And then I realized all of their friends and those friends' friends and so on and so on. So I decided to become an integrative health practitioner, um, to help women try to conceive naturally and how to coach them on how to have a healthy pregnancy. And that leads us to my business that I started. And I'm loving it. I always do more research, and now I just finished the HTMA course, which you obviously are very familiar with. And I've done that for 4 clients, and I love it. And if you're watching this and you're not sure what that is, or if you haven't seen it, it is a hair mineral analysis test, and labs run your test, and we can look at the heavy metals and the toxins in your hair. And for someone like me, I can assess that and I can see where you could be deficient in certain things. And you posted a great video on it the other day. If you're not looking for deficiencies in certain things, because it's at a cellular level, what we're looking at for the hair test, it won't show on a typical blood test. So I'm here to
Right.
help you take it a step further, a step deeper, and your results are something that most of the time we can improve with diet and proper exercising and all of that stuff. So that was really long, but
No, I love it. I love it.
that's how that's how I am where I am today, on my own struggles, and just remembering the pain of a negative pregnancy test and a doctor just brushing you off and saying in a 10-minute appointment, "This is normal." None of this is normal. None of what you and I do in our daily lives dealing with our clients is normal.
I know. And I hate the word like normal in the sense that someone's like not, you know what I mean? But it's just like
Common, not normal.
exactly. And so it's just, I hate that. And I love that you touched on like the functional ranges because I think a lot of people, again, if you have like, a 100 to 200, for example, and, that's like the conventional way to say, oh, everything's good. But then in the functional space, we narrow that into maybe like 40 to 60 or 40 to 80. And that's where we would want to be optimally. And it's just hard because I think people they're okay with being here, but really like you want to strive to be in that optimal state
Yeah.
because you never know what can be contributing. And I think fertility is such a big, there's so many factors. And so why wouldn't you want to be in the absolute best state possible?
Yeah.
Um, and so kind of going back like with, the mindset of well, the PCOS diagnosis as well, just kind of like how did you change things after that? What were things that you did that you
So,
had, because you mentioned you knew you were eating clean already. So like
yeah.
what was it that wasn't working?
I really honed in on how I work out. I realized
Mm,
that I am no longer an athlete. I need to stop training as an athlete. I'm not training to win anything. I'm training now for longevity and feeling healthy and because I enjoy it. So I really started paying attention to slowing my workouts down, doing a lot of yoga, doing a lot of stretching, maybe walking more times than I would go running a week, and only doing HIIT exercises when it's appropriate for my cycle. And I would say within the last couple months, I've really, really looked at focusing on working out, or rather certain types of workouts for your cycles. And I've yet to get my cycle back. So I'm actually very, very excited to get my cycle back. I'm still nursing, so I'm waiting for it to come. But once I, figured out that I was diagnosed with PCOS, I was at the point, and I remember vividly, I don't want to say his name, but my fertility doctor, he said, I will figure out why you're not getting a period, but it will take some time. Or do you just
mm,
want to get pregnant? And I looked at him and my husband, and I said, I'm exhausted. I want to start our family. I don't want to figure out why right now. I'm not mentally capable of going down that road, because it is a hard road when you realize you have to change almost your entire life. And you
yeah.
can't do it overnight. It's slow and steady always. So that's when I really started researching while I was pregnant. And then when I got my cycle back with Lucia, I said, no way am I taking all that medication again to get pregnant. I started looking at where I was deficient. I realized that I was really, really, really deficient in magnesium, which plays a huge part in conceiving, keeping the pregnancy to term. A lot of women give birth too early, and I'm starting to realize a lot of these women are deficient in magnesium. I gave birth with both of my children, one at 37 weeks and one at 37 and a half weeks. My
Mm,
magnesium still is not where it should be, so I'm supplementing that. Looking at how I'm eating, processed food versus not processed food, raw dairy versus regular dairy, which has been a life changing for me. Milk is a processed food. Whether we like to think it's not, it is so heavily processed. If you can get your hands on raw dairy and you can get past what the mainstream says about it, it is a great, I think it's a superfood, especially with getting your cycle, wanting to conceive, balancing your hormones. If you're looking at me and you're like, raw dairy is disgusting, it's not safe, whatever, that's fine. Go to the store and try to find, low pasteurized, because the heat messes things up. So really focusing on what foods I was eating and how I was eating. And then a while ago, one of my favorites is Buns and Balance. She's amazing. I talk about her a lot. And I had coffee first thing in the morning, as most people, most Americans wake up, put the coffee on, eat at 1 o'clock in the afternoon,
yep.
and realized I was messing myself up. I need to not do that. So really focusing on how I eat, when I eat, the types of foods that I eat, and my exercises really helped align my body, I think. And then I was able to conceive naturally with our second daughter, Sienna. So I'm looking forward to doing it again the third time whenever we decide that we're ready.
Aw, that's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's like, and I think that again, the whole infertility space, it's very, like you said, it's exhausting, it's stressful, and it's a lot to handle at once. That I feel like if you don't have, a lot of people have that all or nothing mindset where, I have to change every single thing in order for me to do this the right way. And obviously that would be ideal. But at the same time, you kind of have to, like you said, take it slow and steady, and you're still working on things now. And even, you're going to go through the depletion state again once you
Yep.
actually give birth, and then you have to start it all over again. So it's a more, it's the perspective, it's just the education behind it and why you're doing what you're doing. And I think a lot of the times too, in our society, it's like, we think things are healthy or we're eating healthy foods, whether it's, a bunch of raw spinach and a bunch of salads every single day, which sure are better than McDonald's, but when you think
Right.
about the nutrient density and exactly like the minerals and all those things that you actually need to have a healthy metabolism and obviously have a healthy cycle, and of course, you know, it just support fertility and pregnancy and all those things, they're totally different. So
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah, they're totally.
interesting.
I was vegan for 3.5 years, and
Mm,
I loved it, and it was great. It served me well at that time. But as I started doing more research into figuring out why I couldn't conceive, why, where was my period? I mean, I was 26. I should be able to get pregnant like that. And I just started realizing that there are certain things in my diet that needed attention to. So adding in that raw dairy, adding in the grass-fed yogurts and the grass-fed cheeses and the grass-fed meats really made all of the difference. And I always just look back, and if I knew now or if I knew then what I know now, but then again, I wouldn't be where I am now. So
right.
what was a huge struggle, and the pain is just so, it's I mean, it's really unbearable at times when you are a female and you're struggling. So if you're on here and you're wanting to get pregnant, just know that I'm praying for you. And I I'm sorry, and it's not fair, and I know it's not fair, and it will be your time, and nothing I say is going to bring you comfort, other than it won't be like this forever.
I love that. Yeah. No, I think that such a tough space and everyone's journey is so different.
Yep.
And, you know, you could still have never been on birth control or never done all those things and still, experience those types of issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so I think it's, just meeting people where they're at, but also, again, we're on a mission, within this functional nutrition space to just educate women and empower them to feel that, it may take time. And, if you're not a faith-based person, but like, I believe that, God has a timing for a lot of that stuff and it
Yeah.
will happen when it's supposed to. And at the end of the day, like you were saying, optimally you would have wanted to have supported your body for 6+ months prior to that happening. That's not always the case. But if you have that opportunity and you're able to do it, really thinking about doing that, because it's only going to set you up for success longer term, and like you said, throughout the entire pregnancy itself, and
Hmm.
of course postpartum. So what would you say are, some of your top things, like from the fertility standpoint? You did touch on a few of them, but any things that, if women were to start from right now, ground zero, they have, the PCOS diagnosis, what are things that you would say right now to start doing to support their body for fertility?
I would say, so I'll do like three or five. That's tough because there's so many, but and everything, of course, is from my perspective. From my perspective, the very first thing I think anybody should do, especially if you're getting ready to conceive, is start before you're ready. So many women say, well, I don't want kids for 2 more years. It could take 2 years for your body to get ready. So you're ready, and now you have 2 more years. Well, now you're older, and whether you like it or not, women, we have a time clock. We do. It's very unfortunate, but we have a time clock. We do have to be aware of that. So my number one thing is start before you're ready. Saying, well, I don't want kids for a few more years, that's let's throw that out. It's always a time to be ready, to be healthier, to figure out what's wrong, and to treat your body as it should be treated. So that's number one. Number two is ditch the tap water. Get
Mm,
rid of tap water. I call tap water, my friends and I, and I'm sure a lot of people in this space call the tap water, we call it infertility. Oh, you're drinking the infertility drink. Our tap water it's in my eyes, it's downright poison to us, to our society, which is so sad. But get rid of the tap water. You don't have to hurry up and go buy a Berkey or a whole water filtration system that costs thousands or $500. There's very good ones at Target. When my Berkey broke, my husband and I ran to Target and we got one, and I wish I could remember the name, but it was under $50. And all I made sure is that they had third-party testing and I could get access to that testing. So number two is get rid of the tap water for you and your partner. Number three is to focus on quality of food. And I understand with inflation nowadays, not everybody can afford to buy all organic groceries. That is definitely, in my eyes, a privilege to be able to buy all organic groceries. You don't have to do all or nothing. Start small. Start with the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. If you're not aware of what that is, the Clean 15, the Environmental Working Group puts it out every year. The Clean 15, what you can buy that has the least amount of pesticides. And then the Dirty Dozen are things, usually they have 12 on there, of things that you really should buy organic because they've been heavily sprayed this year. And unfortunately, all of those sprays, glyphosate being a number one, they cause cancer and they wreak havoc on our endocrine system, which then wreaks havoc on our reproductive system. So buying organic where you can is number 3. And I would say number 4 is sleep, which is such an easy thing.
I love sleep.
Yeah, it's such an easy thing to say, like, go get some sleep, but it is hard, especially when you're living the rat race. And a lot of us young people, especially with inflation now, we're living the rat race of wake up, go to work, go to happy hour with my friends, do this, do that, bed at 11 or midnight, and then up at 5 to hit the gym, and you're off to F45 and you're having a insane hit workout in the wrong phase of your cycle, and then all of that. So prioritize your sleep. Sleep matters the older you get. And it is so important for your body and your cells to rest and rejuvenate so you can start the next day. And then I think number 5 would be, it would be more of a we'll say spiritual or religious. If you're not religious, I totally get that. So if you're spiritual, whatever, find some way to relax. If you want to meditate, do that. If you go to church and pray, do that. You can bring your partner in or your spouse in to do that. But relaxing is such a hard thing for us to do. Even when you sit here, if I say, hey, Kel, take 10 slow breaths, you're going to feel so much better. And it's such a thing that is forgotten in modern day society, that breath is so important and so calming, especially for people that are in states of inflammatory. So people with PCOS, we tend to live in a state of inflammation. Let's try to bring that down. So I guess take it or leave it. Those are my 5 things. That's what I would
No, that's awesome. I love that. Those are all very different too. And I think and you touched on like the deep breathing, and I think with just cortisol, which is the stress hormone for those listening, and it's just, we experience that externally and internally. And I think people forget that. And so I think it's awesome that when you can just take a step back, and like you said, we're in a hustle culture, especially women. There's so much that's asked of us, and it doesn't always align with who we are. And I think that that's something that, again, we're trying to shed light on and show that there is a process to this whole madness in the sense of like really what's optimal for ourselves. And it's not always quote unquote what's the status quo, and it's not what's normal in our society or common, but it's looking at what your body needs and remembering that rest and managing your stress and getting into that parasympathetic state when you can is so important. So I love that you touched on that. So like with regards to like pregnancy and postpartum, and so things that people can do, I'm sure a lot of those things that you already mentioned are obviously going to be supportive and things to do, but anything that you would recommend for, that kind of stand out in those kinds of cases that worked for you, and things that, maybe, I don't know, symptoms that people experience that you can kind of explain and support a little bit?
Yeah. So obviously, it's sad to say it, but it's one thing to conceive, and then it's another thing to carry a baby to term. And that's what we like to focus on as well through diet and proper supplementation. And I think the first thing is, as a society, we over supplement, and we just think, all right, well, I'm going to take my prenatal, like I'm good. I can go have McDonald's 3 times a week, or 3 times a month, and it's fine because I have my prenatal. That's not necessarily the case. I think that prenatals were created because there was a lack in our nutrition, and when prenatals really got popular, fast food got really popular at the same time. Women started working more out of the home, which means home cooked meals weren't a thing. Crops were changed, farming was changed, agriculture was changed, and all of that depletes us. And I focus on pregnancy nutrition because problems that I have weren't necessarily created by me, if that makes sense. It starts in the womb. It starts with, what your mother's mother ate. That's how crazy it is. And you can't necessarily fix everything, but you can certainly try. And I saw
Right.
a popular saying, DNA loads the gun, but the environment pulls the trigger. And there's a lot of truth in that. So focusing on the good quality food and rest while you're pregnant and proper supplementation, not just your basic prenatal. That's, unfortunately, we live in America. It is synthetic. It is made to make people money. So what's a synthetic vitamin, why you shouldn't take a synthetic vitamin is it's not bioavailable to us. So we're not going to absorb it properly, and our body's not going to be able to convert the ingredients and use it properly. So getting the right supplements and, like I said, focusing on good quality foods where you can, proper meals, things that a lot of people, I think, tend to overlook during pregnancy. And it's important because we want to carry our babies to term. We want our babies to grow the right way. And if we're lacking in certain fats because, our OB said you can't have fish when you're pregnant, or you can't have sushi when you're pregnant, or raw dairy is dangerous, don't drink raw dairy. If we're getting all this information from people who don't specialize in nutrition and are listening to that, just think about that for a moment, a moment. MDs, OBs, they don't get proper nutrition training.
Mm-mm.
Where I like to come in, and I really like to help women think past what they're told at their typical 10-minute prenatal checkup. Yes, you can have seafood. Seafood's amazing for pregnancy. The omegas in it, the protein in it, that's vital for your baby's spine to grow, your baby's brain development, and your baby's eye development. All of those things play a role. And then it's not just what can I do right now to have like a healthy pregnancy. Postpartum is a whirlwind of emotions. You are depleted from so many of your vitamins and minerals because your baby takes it. And we have the baby and we're like, oh, okay, like we're good now. I'm just going to go back to my normal life. You can't do that. You're not going to go back to your normal life. The mother in you has awakened. You have new needs. You have different stresses. You have different things that need attending to. So paying attention to then what you're eating postpartum will help you regulate those emotions. It will decrease getting postpartum depression. It will increase your milk supply. And then again, proper supplementation. And the word supplementation holds true. You are to supplement what you can't get. It is not the answer. We do things through food and exercise first, and then take a step back and say, let me see where I can supplement here to fill in those gaps.
No, I love that. Yeah. No, I think we rely on like supplementation so much. And I'm like, are you eating enough?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, you only ate 1,000 calories. That's not enough. That is not optimal. We need to be up to like 2,000.
Right? I know. And it's so hard. I think like the eating enough is such a, it does vary per person in some ways. But again, like if you have a goal in mind, there are specific standards and minimums that you would want to ideally hit if you could. So could you kind of like explain that actually, just like in terms of eating enough, like what that kind of can look like for somebody during the day?
So I think, so let's talk about pregnancy. So there is a huge culture, society that in America that accepts, well, eating for two. So like eat whatever you want. Oh, you're eating for two, have an extra piece of cake. That, again, throw it out the window because it's wrong. We don't have to eat for two. During the first trimester, you should have about 200 calories extra. The second trimester, around 300. And this is all, again, going to go up or down if you exercise. If you exercise, keep exercising through your pregnancy. Don't go, hit a PR, but keep exercising because that's so healthy. But you're going to need a little bit more. So I would say maybe 350 to 450 during your second. And then the third trimester, that's when a lot of women pack on the unnecessary pounds because you get so hungry during the last trimester. Your baby's really absorbing everything. Your baby is eating what you're eating. It's taking a lot of the minerals and vitamins from you. So you need about 500. And if you're exercising a lot, I would say anywhere from 500 to maybe 650. That's not a lot of food. 200
Right.
calories is, people are like, well, I need an extra scoop of this and an extra scoop of this and another bowl of cereal. And that's like 600 calories right there. You only need a piece of toast extra in the first trimester. The second trimester, take a piece of toast, put some cheese on it or some yogurt, cottage cheese with some berries. There you go. Third trimester, eat, if you're having salmon for dinner, add in a cup and a half of rice instead of half a cup. Do a cup and a half or 2 cups if you're used to 1 cup. So it's really not that extra food. And people, I gained 11 pounds with my first daughter and 15 pounds with my second daughter. That's, you want to, I never want to shame anybody for gaining weight because I do understand there are conditions where women retain water, but that's also you're deficient in something if you're retaining water during your pregnancy. I understand it's normal. It's not normal. It's just common. You know, Eating for two is dangerous. It is dangerous because women adapt to I need to eat more, I need to eat more, I need to eat more, and they don't always go eat 5 apples. They'll go get fast food, and fast food can
Mm-hmm.
cause high blood pressure. It can cause preterm labor. It can cause slower brain development, which can cause ADHD and developmental behaviors in your child. So it's really important to understand that you don't need as much food as you think when you're pregnant. So
Well, and again, like the nutrient density, like if you're eating, again, processed foods, your body's not using a lot of those, right?
right.
Where if you do eat a great piece of sourdough with honey and whatever cottage cheese, it's totally different. So
Yes.
it's not necessarily just eating a bunch and going crazy with it, but really honoring the nutrient density and knowing that your body is responding and absorbing what it's being given.
Yeah, and
Um,
eat all of the fruit when you're pregnant. Do not fear fruit. The sugar in fruit will not make you fat. It will not give you diabetes. Eat all of the fruit.
Yeah, I hate the food fearing thing because I'm just like, it's food. Just eat. If it's anything that like that would truly be very nourishing for your body, why wouldn't you benefit from that? I don't know. I've never been
That's
one to believe that.
the sun gives us cancer. That's like that whole argument.
I know, I know. I'm like, I don't know. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm with you. We could talk for hours, I'm sure.
yeah,
Well, I will probably wrap it up here just for the sake of your time and everything, but explain to the audience how they could work with you and all of your amazing knowledge that you have. And if anyone's in this specific space, and needing your help, what
sure.
would you be able to
So
offer?
if you're in this space and you're wanting to work with me, I apologize. I apologize that you're going through this part of your life and that you have to endure this pain, but just know the days are brighter and you're going to get your positive pregnancy test and you're going to have a beautiful family one day. And I'm just here to educate you and guide you. So if you want to work with me, you can go to my Instagram profile. You can book a consult and then we really go from there. I'm really customizable to what people need. I do require a 4-month minimum though, just because it takes time to do the hair test that right there can take a month sometimes, and then when you're working with food it can take a while for your body to adjust, um and so you could book your consult there and then we can really go from there. And then if what that looks like, I have some people that work with me for 6 months and then they can get pregnant and they no longer want to work with me. And during those 6 months, I provide meal plans, I provide grocery lists, I provide all of that stuff. And then I have some women that have wanted to work with me the whole entire pregnancy. And during their pregnancy, it's just great to see how they adapt and are more organic and non-toxic lifestyle. And when the longer you work with me, the more education I can provide you. I love to provide ingredient knowledge, just I really work with my clients. Just giving them a meal plan and sending them on their way doesn't work for me. I want to sit with them, an hour a week face to face and explain why I'm having them eat what they're eating and why this bottle of shampoo is wreaking havoc on your body and you need to ditch it. And I go over ingredients and all of the good stuff. I'm really passionate about non-toxic stuff, because again, environmental toxins are making us sick in every which way. They're not just making us infertile, they're giving us cancer and Alzheimer's and all these other things. So that's, if you are interested in the non-toxic pregnancy and the organic living and trying to figure out how to conceive naturally. And again, this isn't a all in or nothing. I have had women that still want to take their medications or are in the middle of their IVF treatments, but they know they're not eating healthy. I'm not one to tell you to stop taking your medication. I am one to help you and support you. That is a decision a woman and her partner, they need to make on their own. So don't think that this is a one all in. I have to hurry up and change everything, because that's not reality. That's not what we do. That's not how I work.
Yeah, and it's not I mean, it's just it's overwhelming, like, because at the end of the day, your body is smart, and if it when it feels safe enough, it will do its thing, but it's not that that's the stopping point, right? There's always going to be growth, always things you can be doing, but you don't necessarily have to do everything right away. But
No,
there are those big markers, and that's why I love the testing as well, to see where those sources are coming from, what's happening, and whether it's your tap water, whether it's your soil, whether it's your shampoo, what's happening that could be a big factor. So I love that. Your passion is amazing, and I love watching and supporting you, and I look forward to using more of your knowledge as I go down this path in the near future, hopefully. But it was a joy talking to you, and I will save this to my Instagram for anyone that wants to watch. But I hope you have a happy holiday season,
thank
and I hope to keep in touch.
thank you so much. I'm so honored to be a part of this series. I love it, and I can't wait to see what you do in the next coming year with your series.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I appreciate it. Well, it was great chatting, Elizabeth. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye bye. Have a good Christmas.
Bye. You too.